Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books that are coming out on either November 8th or 9th, 2022. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Let's go ahead and start off this video first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Damn Them All, issue number 1. And the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? The answer is no. No, it was all right. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't bad, but I don't know that it was like worthy to be the one book that I would buy this week if I could buy just one book. It was a cool concept, but in practice, it was basically like, okay, so magic is real, and the kind of magic that can summon demons from hell, and this guy teaches his niece how to use magic, and it turns out this guy works for the mob as like their magic user and died, and now the niece is taking over the job working for the mob as a magic user, and like that's a job for the mob. But if people see like demons summoned from hell, they like lose their mind and go insane or vomit profusely, or just like basically their heads explode. But it's normal for this person to have a job as a magic user for the mob. It was really kind of weird and really didn't capture my imagination. So I read it, I filed it away, I immediately went to my LCS and I told them, please no longer give me Damn Them All. So this will probably be the last time you ever hear about Damn Them All from me. If you read it and you liked it, I don't mean to yuck your yum. I hope that you did like it if you read it. If you read it, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments, good or bad. All right, let's go ahead now and move forward by taking a look at the books that are coming out this week. Now, I will tell you that this week I am only buying one book. Oftentimes I tell you about the other books that I'm pulling this week, but I'm only buying one book this week, and by default, it is my just one book pick. But it's not really like a traditional just one book pick. We'll get to that later. I probably won't be talking about it. I'll just mention it at the very end of the video. So basically, I have a lot of honorable mentions this week, and so I'm probably going to give very little comment on them. Let's go to the first one this week, which is a new book called Two Graves, issue number 1 from Image Comics. Here's the description. Amelia and the man with the veil of smoke have set out for the ocean in a stolen truck. There's a bloody handprint on his neck. She's beginning to worry it's hers. Death and the maiden go on a road trip. Nobody gets out alive. A new series from writer Genevieve Valentine, illustrated in competing points of view by Annie Wu and Ming Doyle. This sounds weird, but just weird enough to potentially be really awesome. This is probably one book this week that I don't plan on buying, but if I see it on the shelf, I'm gonna pick it up, I'm gonna flip through it, and if something on the interior captures my imagination, even more than this kind of odd description already has, I might just go ahead and pull the trigger on this one. So something I wanted to make sure was on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 13 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Hobgoblin's story comes to a chilling end, and no one is going to be rocked harder by it than Norman Osborn. Witness the birth of the Gold Goblin. What does this mean for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Okay, so basically I mentioned this book because of this one sentence in this description. Witness the birth of the Gold Goblin. If the birth of the Gold Goblin gets your spider sense tingling, this might be a book to pick up this week. Basically, it's something new, and something's new often have spec potential. So I wanted to go ahead and put it on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is Fantastic Four, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Whatever happened to the Fantastic Four? It's the start of a new era for the Fantastic Four, and they're already in a ton of trouble. Something has gone terribly wrong in New York, and the Thing and Alicia are traveling across America to escape it. But when they stop in a small town for the night and wake up the morning before they arrived, they find themselves caught in a time loop that's been going on since before they were born. That's been going on since before they were born. That's been going on since before they were born. Okay, that wasn't a bit I was doing. That's actually how the description is written. So I don't know that the premise of the story that's described here is so exciting and so interesting, but what is noteworthy here is that it is the Fantastic Four, and it is a new series. It is a new issue number 1. The Fantastic Four is going to become a big deal in the years to come if the MCU does right by the Fantastic Four. So if you aren't a very big Fantastic Four fan or a big Fantastic Four reader like myself, to be quite honest, but you're interested in the Fantastic Four and want to get in on the ground floor of something, this might be something worth checking out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Lord of the Jungle, issue number 1 from Dynamite. Yes, Dynamite. Here is the description. At long last, the Lord of the Jungle returns to comics. One of the most famous and recognizable characters in the history of fiction is back, starting with an adventure that returns us to the days before his birth, as well as a time later in life, when a past wrong must be made right, no matter what manner of beast or obstacle stands in Tarzan's way. From acclaimed writer Dan Jurgens comes a tale that wraps the familiar with something brand new. With epic art by Tarzan newspaper artist Benito Gallego, this is sure to be a book that delivers for Tarzan fans both old and new. Okay, so the 30 things that this book kind of has going for it is 1, Dan Jurgens is a well-respected writer. I can't speak to his writing myself. I can't put my finger on something that I've read of his that I responded very positively to, but it's a name. The guy works a lot, and so there's probably some quality in the writing right there. In addition, it's Tarzan. Tarzan is a character that's been around forever, and a character that people like. I'm not exactly sure why, but I also haven't been much of a Tarzan reader, so maybe there's more to the Tarzan tale and stories than I'm aware of. But Tarzan's been around for a long time for a reason, so there's possibly very much some there. Finally, at the end of September, I think it was, Sony got the rights to Tarzan, and places like Sony get the rights to things like Tarzan, and they don't just sit on it. They tend to do something with it, be it a television show or movie. They don't just have it to have, they have it to use. And so we're probably going to get something new from the world of Tarzan at some point. So if you want to kind of similar to the Fantastic Four, if you want to get in on the ground floor or something that is probably we'll be seeing more of in things like film and television, you might consider picking up Lord of the Jungle, issue number 1. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book called Killcella, issue number 1 from Scout Comics. Here's the description. A group of friends drive up from Los Angeles to attend an ultra-trendy music festival in the Coachella Valley Desert. They soon face a bloody night of terror when a reclusive pop star making her big return after 5 years recruits her most fanatical devotees to assist in a massive human sacrifice ritual. Okay, you're probably wondering why I'm smiling and laughing a little bit as I'm reading about a massive human sacrifice ritual, but this is a book that I mentioned to you that I had the same reaction when I read it the first time. It's so absurd that it might be awesome. So I had to at least put it on your radar this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Ninja Funk, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Whatnot Publishing. Here's the description. Guardians of the Galaxy meets Borderlands as a motley crew of electronic musicians fights to restore their dying planet. Frequency-bending warrior DJs, cyborg house cats, the broken rhythm of the universe. This is a comic like you've never seen before. A fun, high-stakes adventure weaved together with face-melting beats. Ninja Funk follows a ragtag band of misfits as they attempt to save a universe that's off-key. Okay, this description sounds kind of dumb to me, to be quite honest. But the reason that I bring this book up to you this week is that it's from Whatnot Publishing, and Whatnot Publishing is now a publishing division of the Whatnot app that has become very, very popular with comic book buyers and sellers. Whatnot has also gotten into the business of business in a way. They're not just a platform for selling comic books. They want to now publish their own comic books, and they've been publishing their own exclusives, and now they're publishing their own original titles. This is apparently, I believe, the first one of them. And it's my understanding that this book has been heavily ordered at the distributor level. Like there's already like 100,000 of these that have been ordered. So this is not going to be rare or hard to find. I looked on eBay for this book, and there's tons of like variants and exclusives and all of this different stuff for this book. There's a big push on this book, and I frankly don't understand why. I think it's because people want to be in business with Whatnot, because I think Whatnot has been good for comic book buyers and sellers. But one thing I will mention, though, is that there was a little bit of a hubbub about this book, because I guess this book was originally supposed to come out last week, and Whatnot had all of these kind of release special events that they had planned on doing in connection with the release of this book, which was supposed to be last week. So exclusives went on sale last week, and Whatnot was selling this book through their Whatnot app last week, and retailers are upset because they are not able to sell this book until this upcoming week because they didn't have it until this upcoming week. So they're a little bit like, yo, you shouldn't be selling this stuff yet because we don't have a chance to sell it. You shouldn't get ahead of us on this. And they're like, yo, so sorry, we had all these plans and we couldn't change them all. So there's a bit of drama around this, but I don't know, if you're curious about something new from a new publisher that's a big deal, I guess, in the comic book industry, you might consider picking up Ninja Funk this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Specs, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Boom Entertainment. Here's the description. In this mysterious new series from writer David M. Booher and artist Chris Sheehan, what happens when a couple of misfit teens mail order a pair of X-ray glasses and realize they've received much more than they bargained for? But all Kenny and Ted want is to not feel like outcasts in their small Ohio town. Their world is turned upside down when the magic specs they receive unlock a world of possibilities. Their wishes start out innocent enough, but when they wish that their bully would disappear, things take a cursed turn, with far darker consequences than they thought possible. Okay, so it's a book about wish-granting glasses. It's new this week. It's coming out. I thought I'd put it on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Traveling to Mars, issue number 1 from Ablaze Publishing. Here's the description. From two-time Eisner and Harvey Award nominee Mark Russell and hot new talent Roberto Melli comes a compelling new sci-fi series. Traveling to Mars tells the story of former pet store manager Roy Livingston, the first human to ever set foot on Mars. Roy was chosen for this unlikely mission for one simple reason. He is terminally ill and therefore has no expectation of returning. Roy is joined on his mission to Mars by Leopold and Albert, 2 Mars rovers equipped with artificial intelligence who look upon the dying pet store manager as a sort of god. Against the backdrop of not only his waning days, but those of human civilization as well, Roy has ample time to think about where things went wrong for both of them and what it means to be a dying god. A riveting story of planetary exploration and of finding meaning in your final days. Okay, so I'll admit a bit of a bias. I'm a bit of a sucker for space stuff, and this is a space thing. And it sounds kind of interesting to me. It sounds like a challenge from a writing perspective. I mean, it kind of makes sense that the writer gave this guy rovers or robots with artificial intelligence, because he needs somebody to talk to. He can't just be alone on a planet for page after page of a comic book. But it sounds like it could be kind of cool and kind of interesting. So similar to the first book I mentioned, which I'm already forgetting the name of, Two Graves, this Traveling to Mars sounds like a book that could be interesting, that I might pick up off the shelf if I see it flip through, and if something on the inside intrigues me, I might consider picking it up, just on concept alone. So I wanted to make sure it was on your radar as well. The next book I want to mention to you, okay, this is a long description. I'm going to try to read it as quickly as possible. The next book I want to mention is Death of Superman 30th Anniversary Special, issue number 1. It's a one-shot from DC. Here's the description. Written by Dan Jurgens, Roger Stein, Louise Simonson, and Jerry Ordway. Art by Dan Jurgens, Brett Breeding, Butch Geis, John Bogdanov, Tom Grummett, and more. Okay, 30 years ago, the unthinkable happened. The Man of Steel died. And after sacrificing himself to stop the unstoppable global threat Doomsday, Metropolis and the rest of the DC Universe mourned the loss of their greatest hero. To mark this monumental moment in comics, DC has reunited the complete creative team behind the original event for 4 brand new stories. Once again, this is a one-shot, so all these stories are in this one-shot. Led by Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding, the special kicks off with a new Superman story and villain, Doombreaker, followed by a series of short stories revisiting some of Superman's greatest allies and exclusive pinups done by some of comics' greatest artistic talent, including Lee Weeks, Gabriel Rodriguez, Bill Sienkiewicz, and Walter Simonson. Okay, it goes on to kind of give really one-line descriptions of each of the stories that are going to be in here, but you know what? I'm going to just skip that part of it. All you need to know is that this is a 30th anniversary of something that was honestly quite momentous. I remember 30 years ago when this happened. It was a big deal. I remember seeing them talking about comic books on the local news like the day before or the day of, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're talking about comic books on the local news. This is crazy. It was a big deal. People ran out to comic book stores and scooped up tons of copies of this, thinking that the death of Superman, that's momentous. Comic books are valuable, some of them. This is going to be my retirement. Well, obviously it wasn't. We all know when something is hyped up and tons of people buy it, there's plenty of availability, and therefore the price goes down. But it was kind of a cool thing in its own way. It was a cultural phenomena, and so I think it's relevant and worthy to have a 30th anniversary special, and this is this. This is also going to have a new story and a new villain, Doombreaker. So this might be something you consider picking up just for Doombreaker, but similar to the original Death of Superman 30 years ago, I have a feeling that this is not going to be in short supply. Doombreaker is clearly derivative, so I don't think he's going to be like a massive villain in the DC universe. But it's worth mentioning and it's worth knowing about, so I tell it to you today. I also just want to quickly mention that there is a facsimile edition of Detective Comics issue number 38 coming out this week. That's the first appearance of Robin. As with a lot of these facsimiles, this is a book that you probably are never going to hold in your hands like an original copy of, because they're just crazy expensive, as well they should be. So if you were ever curious to read up on the first appearance of Robin in facsimile form, I wanted to let you know that that's coming out this week. The next book I want to tell you about is a new book. It is The New Golden Age, issue number 1. This is a one-shot as well. From DC, here's the description. From the Justice Society of America to the Legion of Superheroes, the New Golden Age will unlock DC's epic and secret-ridden history of heroism, that is, launching a new group of titles set firmly in the DC universe. From the 1940s to the 3040s, heroes take on the great evils of their time. But in the aftermath of Flashpoint Beyond, those heroes and villains will have their lives turned upside down. DC's future and its past will never be the same again. But how are Mime and Marionette connected to this? Why are Rip Hunter and the Time Masters the most unlikable heroes in the DC Universe? And who or what is Nostalgia? Capital N, so I guess that's a character, maybe a new one. Don't miss the state of the strangest mystery to have ever plagued the DC Universe. Okay, I just mentioned this because it seems like it's going to be impacting the DC Universe at large. And so I think it's worth being aware of. So if you're a big DC fan, you probably want to pick this up because I think it's going to end up having reverberations throughout the DC Universe. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Wildcats, issue number 1 from DC. This is a limited series, but it doesn't say how many issues are going to be in this limited series. Here's the description. Spinning off from the pages of Batman comes a senses-shattering new series. The Halo Corporation has gathered a motley crew of operatives led by Cole, Grifter, Cash, who are going to make the world a better place, no matter who they have to kill. Working in the shadows of the DC Universe, the new covert team has been tasked with gathering an elite group of scientists for the first phase of their plan. But the Cats' mysterious leader, Void, might have other plans. Okay, so Wildcats, for those of you who don't know, was a comic book that came out in the 90s, I believe, from Image. And I think it was maybe one of their early titles, if not earliest titles, if not launch titles. And this character, Grifter, has been absorbed into the DC Universe. I don't know the details on how that happened, but now these characters are part of the DC Universe. And so if you're looking for some 90s nostalgia, here it is. If you're looking for something new and edgy, here it is. It's just, you know, if you ever liked the Wildcats, congratulations, you're going to get more. Okay, so those are all my honorable mentions. That leaves the one book that I am for sure buying this week. It's the only book that I'm buying this week, for sure. I might, like I said, look at those other ones. But this is then by default, because it is the one book that I know 100% for sure right now that I am going to be buying. So once again, by default, it is my just one book pick of the week. And that book is The Nice House on the Lake, issue number 11 of a 12-issue limited series from DC Black Label. I'm not going to read the description. I talk about The Nice House on the Lake all the time. Nice House on the Lake was my just one book pick a couple weeks, I guess about a month ago. And I loved it when I read it, and I thought it was a worthy and worthwhile just one book pick. I'm loving this series so much. This is the penultimate issue of this 12-issue limited series. The conventional wisdom is that there will be more The Nice House on the Lake past issue number 12, but this is the penultimate issue of this installment of it. I've been loving it so much. It's so good. Certain people don't like it. They think it's too slow. Other people didn't like that it took the breaks that it took in releasing. I understand all that, but the story is so good and I love it so much. So this is a light week for me, even though I had a lot of books to talk about today. I'm only buying one, and that book is The Nice House on the Lake, because I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, and therefore it is my just one book pick of the week. All right, a bit of an anticlimactic ending, because it's not like none of you are like, I gotta go run. I haven't bought issue number 1 through 10, but off Jeff's recommendation, I'm absolutely gonna go pick up issue number 11. But like I said, I have to be honest with you in these videos always. So there you have it. If you do like this video, likes are appreciated by me. If you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to do so. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.